If you turn on the news during a typical budget cycle, you'll hear the exact same alarm bells blaring. We are warned that runaway national debt is the ultimate threat to our economic survival. Pundits and economists point to the trillions of dollars piling up in the national ledger, insisting that these massive liabilities are the disease slowly killing the economy. But treating debt as the primary cause is a misdiagnosis. The debt-to-GDP ratio is a lagging indicator. By the time those numbers spiral out of control, a more subtle internal process has already done the damage. This diagram illustrates a pathology known as institutional hypertrophy. Think of a nation's economy as a biological cell. At the center is a large productive core, the private sector workers and businesses. Surrounding it is a thin administrative shell, the bureaucracy. In a healthy state, that productive core generates enough wealth to easily sustain the protective administrative shell without straining its own resources. Hypertrophy occurs when that administrative shell begins to multiply uncontrollably. It exists to sustain itself, draining capital and talent from the core until the entire structure eventually collapses under the weight. Attempting to fix a debt crisis while this shell continues to swell is essentially treating a symptom. The underlying hypertrophy remains, quietly draining the nation's productive capacity. To see exactly how this bureaucratic spiral takes over, we can look at Spain. It provides a stark empirical case study of institutional decay in real time. The Spanish system operates on a unique fusion between the civil service and the legislative branch. A massive percentage of the lawmakers writing the nation's economic roles are actually career civil servants on special leave. This chart shows what economists call the safety net bias. While a private entrepreneur takes on high risk to innovate and create wealth, these state workers operate with absolute security. Because these policymakers hold guaranteed tenure, they face zero downside risk. If their legislative decisions crash the economy or stifle business growth, they still have a guaranteed high-paying government job waiting for them the moment they leave office. Shielded from economic reality, these bureaucrat politicians engage in pro-cyclical hiring, creating endless new positions to secure electoral loyalty. When the people managing the state's finances are completely insulated from the economic damage their policies cause, they will rationally bankrupt the country to maintain their own power. The real danger of this politically motivated hiring is the math behind it. A new government job is rarely a one-time budget expense. This chart shows that because these administrative positions come with guaranteed tenure for life, every single hire stacks into a 40-year fixed liability for the taxpayer, locking in decades of rigid salaries and indexed pensions. As the state expands, it offers perks like extreme job security and lower working hours that private businesses simply cannot match. This triggers a massive brain drain. Instead of building companies, the brightest young talent in the country spends years studying for state exams, choosing to extract wealth rather than create it. As youth filter out of the productive core and into the administrative shell, the economy begins to choke. The nation enters a state of fiscal sclerosis, operating a massive machine that exists primarily to pay the salaries of the people running it. Stopping this cycle involves moving beyond temporary spending cuts. It requires a hard structural limit, the optimal bureaucratic frontier. Mapping private sector output against a maximum tax rate creates the equilibrium ratio. Civil service costs cannot exceed private funding. Core workers form the vast majority, while pure bureaucracy is strictly capped at a 15% sliver. Exceeding this triggers an instant hiring freeze. By anchoring public sector growth to private sector output, the state is mathematically prevented from growing heavier than the economy it relies on. To prevent populist politicians from simply repealing the cap when it becomes inconvenient, these mechanisms would be embedded directly into the national constitution. Under the one-in, one-out rule, adding a new administrative rule requires liquidating an old one or automating an existing position. The most significant barrier is the firewall of resignation. Any career civil servant running for political office must permanently forfeit their government position. Severing that tie eliminates the safety net bias. To make the rules for the economy, you must live with the same private sector economic risks as the citizens you govern. A nation slowly strangles itself when its state becomes too large to fail, but too heavy to carry. Instituting a personnel cap limits the bureaucracy, returns top talent to the private sector, and ensures the government acts as a servant of the people rather than its master.